McLane Church Online, what's going on? My name is Chris Norris. I am the online site pastor here, and I am just basking in the beauty of the sun today, spending time outside, and I hope you are too. I hope that you're watching church, connecting with your church family. Maybe you're outside like me, you've got a cup of coffee, your laptop is open, and you are at church in a different way. And we are so glad, regardless of how you're connecting with us, that you are choosing to find a way to stay connected to McLane Church and stay involved with what we're doing, and most importantly, to be in God's presence. And man, I'll be honest, this is a great place to meet with God, right here in the sun in the summer time. So thanks for being with me. We've got a wonderful service planned for you today. But before we get into that, of course, as always, let us open our hearts and our minds to what God wants to teach us this morning. Something I would like to share with you from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3, verses 10. It says this, "And the Lord came and called as before, 'Samuel, Samuel.' And Samuel replied, 'Speak, your servant is listening.'" Now, if you read this entire chapter, it's kind of this back and forth jockeying between Samuel and God. And Samuel thinks he hears God, but he gets up and no one else has heard him. And it's a back and forth kind of thing. And Samuel's very stressed. He's very confused. No one else is hearing God's voice. He can't figure it out. But the important thing to note here, and why I selected this particular verse, is Samuel replies to God when he hears his voice, "Speak, I'm listening," right? I am listening. And for many of us, we don't consider that God is just going to show up and speak to us like he did Samuel, right? And maybe that's not going to happen, literally speaking. But there are often times in our hearts and our minds when we might feel the gentle nudge of the Holy Spirit, or we might feel God speaking into our lives and into our hearts, or maybe God's doing something really cool in your life, and you're like, why would he be doing that for me? I am not worthy. Surely he's got the wrong guy. But as we see Samuel here, Samuel is saying, I'm listening. And I think it's so important in our lives that we make sure that we're listening, because God is inviting us to a party, right? Summertime's filled with parties, and I hope that you've gone to a lot of them and you've had a great time. But the Lord calls us to a party where he is the host and he wants us to invite others. He wants us to enjoy the party, but most importantly, he wants the party to be significant, life-changing, life-giving, and really centered around the peace and the love and the provision that he provides. It's the best party you'll ever go to, but you've got to listen for the invitation. And too often I feel like, at least in my life, I get the invitation to join God at his party, and I'm like, no, I'm too busy. Or no, I don't deserve to be at your party. Or no, I'm just not ready, I'm not sure that I'm ready to join your party with all these amazing guests that I don't measure up to. But all God is really asking us to do is to accept the invitation, listen for it, and show up. And then once you get there and you realize the beauty of having God in your heart and in your life, and you are at this party, he wants us to invite others, right? And people don't even necessarily need a physical invitation or a prompt or a phone call. Sometimes people see your life and how you live it and the love you give others and the peace that you have, and they say, what's the secret? Well, and that's the opportunity where you lean in and you say, let me tell you about the best party I've ever been invited to. And you bring them in. So my goal and my hope and my prayer for you today is that you will listen first and foremost. Listen to the Holy Spirit's prompt and just show up to the party, right? And as you go to dozens of parties throughout the summer and even into the fall, you remember that the most important party you ever were invited to and ever been a part of is when Jesus went to that cross and he died. Not exactly a whole lot of fun, but that was his invitation to the greatest party ever created. It was when he died on that cross and he invited everybody to follow him and to experience life everlasting. So listen, show up to the party, and invite others. And my prayer for you today is that you'll experience the peace of Christ in your life through the greatest party that has ever been thrown for you and for me. Well, speaking of party, we've got a party of our own here at McLane Church Online today. Great service in store. Let's start by turning up the volume, putting our AirPods in, or hey, maybe turning it up so loud that your neighbors can hear the worship music that we want to join together today as we praise our Almighty God. Worship team, take it away.
everybody, and welcome. I'm your friendly neighborhood Spence, and one of the great things about virtual worship is that you can take us wherever you go. So wherever you are right now, we can sing a song together in His name. Amen. 1, 2, 3. Sing wherever I go. All my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. God is for me, He's not against me. I will hold to the plans He has for me. When I'm broken, He will fix me. I will call on the name of the Lord. All my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. He's my heart song in my sorrow. He's my hope and my strength for tomorrow. When the storms rise all around me, I will call on the name of the Lord. Here we go. All my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. I got joy, joy, joy deep in my soul. I will sing, sing, sing wherever I go. 1, 2, 3. All my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Said all my life, all I know, God's been good, good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Psalm 103 begins, "Let all that I am praise the Lord. With my whole heart I will praise His holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. May I never forget the good things He does for me." Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing a song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul. I worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul. I worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul. I worship your holy name. Yes, I will worship your holy name. Lord, I worship your holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name. I will worship your holy name. Worship your holy name.
Well, now it's at the point in the service where we have the opportunity to give back to God through our offering and our tithe. I hope that you will prayerfully consider giving back to the mission and ministries of McLane Church. It's a great opportunity to see your dollars, quite literally, used to do great things through our church. I could sit here and talk for an hour about all the amazing things happening at our church through different ministry areas and outreach opportunities, but I won't share all that. I would invite you to visit our website to learn more about all the great things happening. And if you want to partner with us to be a part of what God is using McLane Church to accomplish in our region and beyond, I would invite you to do that. You can do it very easily by setting up a recurring give on mclanechurch.org/give. If you're driving right now and you just want to drop a check in the mail when you get home, that's fine too. And if this is your very first time joining us at McLane Church, don't worry about giving anything right now except your attention and your ear to what we want to share with you today as part of our service, and maybe a little bit of information about yourself if you want to click on that connection card on the McLane Church online homepage. We would love to connect with you. Visit our website as well to connect with us. Let us know how we can pray for you or direct you in the right path to ultimately get you connected to Jesus Christ. So thanks for being with us today. Thanks for taking part in partnering with our church through our moment of giving here. Thank you for being generous with what God has provided you. Well, Pastor Brian is back with us today to bring you another one of his hand-selected messages as part of our Best of series. We've been doing this throughout the entire month of July. I have enjoyed it thoroughly because I'm seeing messages that I remember seeing from years past, right? But in some crazy way, God is teaching me new things, or he's bringing things back to the surface for me that I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this message, and I remember walking out of church that day thinking, wow, that is enlightening. That is informative. That is inspiring. So that's exactly what we're doing. Pastor Brian is handpicking some of the best messages from over the years that attenders have enjoyed and connected with, and also that he feels like are very relevant to our culture today, and most importantly will segue perfectly into our fall sermon series that Pastor Brian has planned for us and teaching us as well. So these messages are from the archives, but I assure you they are fantastic. And if this is the first time you're seeing any of these messages, then you're in store for a real treat. So get out your notebooks, lend us your ear and your hearts, and hear what Pastor Brian wants to share with you today that God has put on his heart once again. Pastor Brian, the stage is yours.
Welcome to everyone who's joining us for this presentation. No matter when or where you're viewing this talk, we very much appreciate you giving your time to what's happening at McLane Church. It's the week of October 3rd, 2021, when we're first presenting this talk, and fall is settling nicely into northwestern Pennsylvania with some cool mornings and warm afternoons, and the leaves just beginning to change color. It is a beautiful reminder and witness to life's rhythms and seasons. In this talk, I would like to try to make sense of where we presently are as a church and where we're headed in the future. This talk is admittedly long, but I think it's worth the time we'll spend together to consider some very important issues. You know, throughout history, there have been pivotal moments that have changed things forever. In the last century, historians would point to World War I or the Great War as forever changing the world's political reality, shaping the political landscape of our world into the present day. One could point to the Great Depression as forever shaping a generation around frugality and savings. Ask anyone who's had to clean out their grandparents' house. That the advent of rural electricity in the 1940s and 50s, it would change forever how rural America lived. You no longer needed to stop working at sundown. The space race of the 1960s, it would put calculators in our hands in the 1970s and incredibly powerful computers in our pockets known as smartphones in the present day. And as we recently reflected, the horrors of September 11th, 2001, they would change things as basic as the way we traveled to as complex as the way we viewed the world. And you know, I think future historians will look at the global pandemic of 2020 and 2021 as a pivotal event that changed significant aspects of our culture and our life forever. Now, the thing that's interesting about all these events we referenced is that none of them happened in a vacuum. In fact, in each case, things were in motion for years, perhaps even decades, that culminated in the event that is viewed as the catalyst or the moment of change. Europe was awash with political crisis for decades prior to World War I. The economic excess of the 1920s set the stage for the stock market crash of 1929. Electricity had been transforming cities for years before it came to the countryside. The Cold War predicated the space race. Star Trek predicted the smartphone, and the growing power and presence of terror organizations in the world gave birth to the atrocities of 9/11. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything seemingly has a run-up to it. And the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic of the past 2 years has brought about, at least as far as they affect the church, they haven't happened in a vacuum either. These changes have been coming for years. It's just that the pandemic, like the start of World War I or the landing of a person on the moon, brought these changes that have been brewing and building for years to fruition. Today, I'd like us to think through some of these changes and ask what these changes mean for the church's future. And to help us do that, I'd like us to think about banking. It seems to me that for the better part of the 20th century, banking remained relatively unchanged. I remember as a child going to the bank on Friday evenings with my grandparents so my grandfather could cash his paycheck. Friday was the day the bank was open late, so people who had to work during the day could cash their paycheck at the bank on Friday after work. And if I remember correctly, my grandparents would go to cash my grandfather's paycheck on Friday evening and then go do their grocery shopping with cash. And now at the bank on Friday night, you knew the teller by name as well as the bank manager and probably most, if not all, of the other community members who were in the lobby of the bank on Friday evening doing the same thing you were doing. Now, at some point in the 20th century, a revolution came to banking, and that was the advent of the drive-through window. What a change that introduced. I remember riding with my mom in our station wagon during the day to make a deposit at the bank, and we didn't even need to go inside. Now, further technology would bring the installation of tube banking, where you didn't even need to see a teller at the drive-through window. You could simply drive up to a machine, put your paycheck in a canister, and then magically send it through a tube to the teller, whom you may never see. If I recall correctly, in the 1980s came the birth of the ATM. Do you even remember what the initials stand for? Automatic Teller Machine. Now you didn't need to go into the bank lobby. You didn't need to interact with a teller. You didn't need to visit with the branch manager or see other members of the community. You could do all your banking through a machine. And are you ready for this? You could do it all 24 hours a day. You didn't have to wait until Friday evening when the bank was open late to cash your paycheck. You could cash your check at 6 a.m. or 10 p.m. whenever you wanted to. And if the bank in the late 1980s or early 1990s didn't have an ATM, well, it was time to find a new bank. But the banking transformation, it was really just beginning. Next came direct deposit. Now you didn't even have to take your paycheck to the bank. It was automatically deposited at the bank of your choosing by your employer. And because most stores were now taking ATM or debit cards as payment, you didn't even have to visit the bank's automatic teller machine to get cash to buy groceries. You could largely avoid interaction with the bank, at least on a weekly basis, although you were still very much in need of the services the bank provided. Step into the present. In addition to having my paycheck direct deposited, I can now deposit the few other checks I receive through an app on my phone, although I rarely use this because most other money that comes to me these days comes via Venmo or Zelle. I write about a dozen checks a year because I use my bank's online bill pay service to pay most of my bills. I never balance my checkbook. Remember the worksheets that used to come on the back of your bank statements? I never have to use those because I'm constantly balancing in real time, as all my accounts are available at any time I want or need to view them on my computer or phone. And I would have to think hard about when the last time was that I was physically in the lobby of a bank building, although I still do like to go inside fairly regularly because I enjoy seeing the people who work at the bank. Now, I'm pretty sure my kids, who are completely automated in their banking, never go to the bank. And yet, they're more savvy and on top of their finances than I am. It's interesting that the bank building, which when I was tagging along with my grandparents on Friday nights in the 1970s, was really the center of banking life. The bank building, it just isn't that important to the banking experience anymore. In fact, while many banks just a few decades ago seemed to be in a race to build more and more branch buildings, today the push seems over and the trend seems more toward closing and consolidating physical branches instead of building new ones. Now here's the deal. We still very much need the bank's services. In fact, arguably, unless you have piles of cash buried in your backyard or bars of gold hidden in your basement, you probably are more dependent on the bank than you ever have been. But you no longer have to go to the bank building on Friday night to get these services. We need what the bank provides, but we can access what the bank offers in many different ways. Now think about the parallels between banking and the church. People in our culture still need what the church provides. In fact, arguably, they need what the church provides now more than they ever have. And what is it specifically that the church provides? Well, it seems to me the church has always offered people three foundational things. First, the church has always tried to explain and help people follow the example and teaching of Jesus. That seems so basic, yet it's so easy to overlook. As the church has become more institutionalized, has developed more into a business, it's been easy for the church to lose focus on its primary mission. The church at its core is about helping people understand and follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. Given this central mission, we try to spend a significant amount of time teaching about Jesus. That's why, for example, we spent the past 3 months looking with fresh eyes at some of the things that Jesus said and did. Because we all know that it's easy to forget or fail to apply some of the basic things that Jesus taught his followers to do, like praying for your enemies and laying down your rights and seeing all people, even people we don't like, as people who are loved by God. And what we found is that in these ancient teachings of Jesus, there is an immense amount of practical wisdom for the present day, if we're willing to truly listen to what Jesus said and begin to try to live it out. At the core, the church is a group of people who are trying to better understand and live out what this first century teacher named Jesus did and taught. Secondly, the church is trying to be a place where people can learn and live out the teachings of Jesus together. The church, quite simply, is a place where anyone can find a friend. We understand that life is better with other people around us. We all have a need to have a few other people accept us, love us, and support us. Some people are fortunate enough to find this kind of love and support in their families. Others aren't so lucky. So where do you go to find someone who will accept you, love you, and support you? The church, by design, is supposed to be that place. The church is a place where everyone is welcome and everyone is accepted, not on the basis of what you have done or haven't done, but on the basis of who you are, a human being who bears the image of God. The church is to be the place where everyone can find a friend, where everyone can be loved, and where everyone can be supported. Now, we don't experience this perfectly, to be sure. Just like in our families, sometimes we get hurt in the church or disappointed by the church. Sometimes the church is not there for us like it should be, and sometimes we're not accepted by the church as we are. But despite the frequent failings of the church, the point still remains that the church is the one place in culture where everyone is welcome, where everyone can find a home. Because we all need other people in our lives. And when you've got nowhere else to go to find someone to accept you, love you, and support you, you ought to be able to turn to the church. This is what Jesus modeled. This is what Jesus called his followers to do. This is what the church should be. So at its core, the church is a group of people trying to follow the teachings of Jesus, and it's a group of people trying to do that as friends. It's a community built around the teaching and example of Jesus. But it seems to me the church is also one more thing. The reality of it is the church is an institution. Whether Jesus intended it to be that or not is unknown, but clearly, since the mid-1st century on, that is what the church has become. In our present day, the church is an organization with employees and budgets, policies and buildings, logos and letterhead. The church is an institution. Now, the bad part of any movement becoming institutionalized is that it can lose focus on its mission. And many times we have been guilty of that. It's easy to talk more about strategy and goal setting than it is to wrestle with Jesus' instruction to turn the other cheek. But there is a positive side to a movement becoming institutionalized in that institutions can more easily focus efforts and resources to accomplish goals. And when those goals advance the common good, institutions can be a very good thing. As an institution, the church has significant resources at its disposal to move good things forward in a significant way. For example, each year, the Erie City Mission asks for help from the community to fill Thanksgiving bags for people in the Erie region who would be encouraged by receiving a little extra help during the holiday season. As an institutionalized church, we can focus a lot of resources around helping with that project. We can harness our communications team and our teaching schedule and our administrative staff to promote and implement this idea or this project. We can make our buildings collection points. We can ask our congregation across our sites to participate. And the result is, as an institution, we can fill hundreds of Thanksgiving bags. As an institution, we are uniquely positioned to do good things like that. So it seems that the third thing the church is supposed to be about is that it's supposed to be an institution that uses its resources to do good in the community. We often use the phrase around here, promoting the common good, to refer to these efforts. The church as an institution is to be a positive difference maker. If you really boil it down to the basics, wouldn't you agree that the church at its core is to be about these three things? One, helping people understand and follow the example and teaching of Jesus. Two, providing a place where anyone can belong and where anyone can find a friend. And three, using its institutional resources to do good in the world. And with our unique mission as a church, we've tried to do all three of these things as barrier-free and as accessible as possible. Now here's the question. In our present day, do people still need and want a place where they can learn what Jesus taught and did? Absolutely. Interest in the church may seem to have dwindled, but interest in Jesus has not. In fact, one could possibly argue that while interest in the organized church has waned, interest in the actual teachings of Jesus is as great or greater than it has ever been. In our present day, do people still want and need a place where they can belong? A place where they can find a friend? Absolutely. People need friends. People need acceptance. People need to know they are loved. This is what Jesus offers people. This is what Jesus asked his followers to provide for people. A loving and inclusive community. It's what the church is at its core. And in our present day, do people still want to be part of an organization that is doing good in the world? Absolutely. In fact, probably at a level never before seen. People in the present day want to be part of organizations and institutions that are making a positive difference in the world. It's no longer just about growth or money or influence. People want to be part of something that is doing good. People still want and need all the church has to offer. They just need it offered in more ways and times than Sunday morning. You know, just like people still need the services offered by a bank, but they need those services offered in new and different ways. So people still want and need what the church has to offer. They just need it offered in new and different ways. It's time for the change that's come to banking to come to the church. So let me outline for you what we envision some of those changes looking like as we move forward. First, the church can no longer be defined by the Sunday morning worship service. The church must dispel the idea that Sunday morning is sacred. Jesus did not instruct his followers to worship on Sunday. In fact, the early church seemed to gather on several different days of the week. And many scholars would argue that it's not until relatively late in the church's history that the tradition of Sunday worship becomes standard practice. Now, don't get me wrong. The tradition of Sunday worship has been a good thing. The tradition stems from choosing to worship the risen Jesus on the day of the week that he rose from the dead, Sunday. And when this was coupled with Reformation theology, the idea of worship and rest on Sunday, it became a culture-shaping tradition in Western civilization for hundreds of years. And a very compelling argument can be made that this was a good tradition and its effect on culture was very positive. But it was just a tradition. And most traditions run their course. Now, we can argue all we want that it shouldn't be that way, and we could wish for a return to the days when everybody went to church on Sunday and then had dinner with their families and then took long drives in the countryside. But those days are no more coming back than Friday evenings are going to return to being the time all the community gathered at the bank lobby to cash their weekly paychecks. The truth is, Jesus was quite clear that every day, not just one day, was sacred. And the early Christian theologian Paul, he would warn about the dangers of treating some days as more sacred than others. And in a culture where not everyone has the luxury or privilege of having Sunday mornings free to attend church, the church must offer itself on more and different times than just the weekend. For a church whose mission is to eliminate barriers to give people access to Christ, we can do no less. Now, the second change the church must embrace is the move away from a building-focused experience. The model of the church for centuries, and arguably going back as far as the 4th century, has been to be building focused. And again, this has been done for a number of very good reasons. In the medieval era, the architecture and furnishings of the church helped communicate the teachings of Jesus to people who were largely illiterate. The building helped tell the story of Jesus, as many church buildings still do to this day. In recent decades, churches like ours created buildings or campuses that served as gathering points for the church community because in-person, face-to-face connections were really the only effective way to communicate information and facilitate relationships. The more opportunities that could be offered in a specific geographical space, the more relational engagement could happen. Now, if it wasn't the only way to create relational engagement, it was certainly the most practical and effective way of bringing large groups of people together under one roof. It was essential to facilitating the church's mission. But what do we know now? There are more ways to connect and communicate than just in person. In fact, I can have a face-to-face communication with another person without even being in the same room with them. And sometimes the communication afforded by technology is to be preferred to an in-person meeting. At our church, perhaps like your workplace, our staff regularly meets by Zoom and often prefers to do so. One of our key staff members lives in a different state and works just as effectively from a remote location as in person. Last week, I received an email from a member of the church who moved to a different part of the state, but who is very much engaged in the church through our online services. In the past year, we've made friends with a congregation in Germany whose pastors started listening to us online and with whose members we've been able to speak face to face without ever leaving Edinburgh. You get the point. You don't have to physically enter any of our buildings to experience the reality of the church. The day is already here where we will have fully engaged members of the church who have never come or will never come through the doors of any of our buildings. Church is no longer about a building-centered experience, just like you no longer have to go to the bank to be the bank's customer. Third, in this new reality of church, there is no longer a McLane, Mike, and Mary. And this is really important to grasp, so let me explain. In the early days, when we were transitioning to the church to its current model, parenthetically, the model we are now transitioning from, we used to talk about McLane, Mike, and Mary. Mike and Mary were the ideal members of McLane Church, and this is what characterized Mike and Mary. Mike and Mary attended a weekend worship service every week, either on Saturday night or Sunday morning. Mike and Mary also attended a small group that would meet a minimum of 2 times a month, preferably in someone's home. Mike and Mary would be involved in serving in one of the church's ministries, most likely a ministry that helped facilitate the weekend worship experience, like being a greeter or serving in children's ministry. And Mike and Mary would financially support the church each week by putting a donation in a bag that was passed through the congregation during the weekend services. These qualities would identify the fully connected member of McLane Church. And you know what? Throughout the 1990s and the early 2000s, these were accurate indicators of what an engaged member of McLane Church looked like. It was all very defined, very clear, and very neat. But the world is growing less defined, less clear, and less neat. What do you do with the person who lives in West Virginia and engages with McLane Church regularly through church online? They don't fit the McLane Mike and Mary profile, yet McLane Church is their church. How about the person who regularly attends a small group but has never made it to a worship service? Are they part of McLane Church? Or how about the person that once in a while attends a church service in person, but most weeks listens to us on the radio, although some weeks they do neither, but interestingly, their love for their coworkers is growing by leaps and bounds because of what they're learning through the church. Are they a fully engaged member of McLane Church? The answer to these questions, it's found in our banking example. As I previously mentioned, these days I mostly bank online. My paycheck's direct deposited, so I rarely need to go to the bank. If I get another paper check, I usually deposit it through a mobile app. But you know, the other day I had a check with me while passing one of my bank's branches. So I used the drive-through tube system to deposit it. Sometimes, again, because I like the people at the bank, I go inside just to say hi. Interestingly, I almost never use an ATM. Now, what's the point? 50 years ago, I would have been known as a regular customer at the bank because I was there every Friday evening cashing my paycheck. Today, I'm still a regular customer, but sometimes it's online, sometimes it's in person, and sometimes it's using that crazy tube banking system. The way I connect to the bank has changed, and it is varied. But I am still very connected to and very dependent on my bank. In this new era, people will connect to the church in many different ways. For some, it'll remain a worship service on Sunday mornings. That's great. For others, it'll be through a weeknight gathering or an online experience or a serving initiative that takes the place of the worship service on Sunday morning. There'll no longer be one way or one event or even one practice that makes someone connected to McLane Church. The issue will not so much be what event or group are you part of. The issue will be, what are you experiencing? Are you learning about and being encouraged to follow the teachings of Jesus? Are you experiencing genuine friendship, and are you being a friend to others? And are you taking advantage of the opportunities the institution of the church affords to make a difference in our community? If you're experiencing these things, no matter how you're experiencing them, that is what matters. Because God doesn't want your attendance at events. He wants your heart. To the degree that engagement in the church's programming helps you give God more of your heart, wonderful. But the issue is not what you attend or where you attend. The issue is, are you yielding your heart more fully to the teachings and example of Jesus? Now, let me close this very long talk with a reading from the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah. And although the context in which these words were originally spoken was somewhat different from our present reality, the sentiment of these words still rings true. The prophet, speaking on behalf of God, says to the nation of Israel, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. In history, God has regularly done new things. I think this is one of those moments in the life of the church. New things are scary. Think back to the first time you used an ATM or paid a bill online. And new things do not mean the old things were bad. They just mean it's time for something new. There's a world out there that could really benefit from what the church has to offer. But they're not receiving it in the way it's currently being delivered. It's time for us to find new ways to bring what the church is to them. May God help us join with Him in doing a new thing.
Why would I worry when giants come calling my name? My God is so much bigger than troubles I face. Why would I hunger for power or riches or fame? Oh, 'cause my God is so much better than all of these things. So I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be moved. My God is faithful. His promise is true. So I speak to the mountains. Oh, it's time to move. 'Cause my God is bigger, better, stronger, greater than you. Enemies scatter, 'cause they know the battle is done. My God is stronger, the victory is already won. Yeah, He died for my ransom and rose up on the third day. Oh, 'cause my God is greater than death, hell and the grave. I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be moved. My God is faithful. His promise is true. So I speak to the mountains. Oh, it's time to move. My God is bigger, better, stronger, greater than you. There's no mountain too high, no valley too low. There's no fear that I have He doesn't already know. There's no problem too big, there's no weapon too strong. There is nothing for God that's impossible. There's no mountain too high, no valley too low. There's no fear that I have He doesn't already know. There's no problem too big, there's no weapon too strong. There is nothing for God that's impossible. So I won't be shaken. No, I won't be moved. My God is faithful. His promise is true. So I speak to the mountains.
Church family, thanks so much for being with us today at McLane Church Online. I hope that you enjoyed everything from our pastoral moment at the top to our moment of giving, to our worship, to our message. I just hope that it was a great time for you. I hope that, again, you were able to connect with us. Like we always say, no matter where you are, we're just glad that you're here at McLane Church Online, because that is exactly why what we do, so that people can stay connected and still feel like they're a part of our church. You know, we used to say miss a week, miss a lot, but now you don't have to, because you're not missing a week. You decided to log on your phone. Maybe you're at the beach. It doesn't matter. We're glad you're here. And I hope that today's service was meaningful for you. And I hope that you will plan on doing it again next week and the next week and the next week, because we will be here. And speaking of, make sure you visit our website, McLaneChurch.org, to learn more about our church. If this is your first time, to get connected to some of the events we have planned. There's a little bit of summer left, so we encourage you to check out our calendar of events and join us for an opportunity that we have for you and your family. So thank you so much for being here. If you need anything from me as your online site pastor, you can connect with me over email, cnorris@mclanechurch.org. I can't wait to worship with you again next week here at McLane Church Online.